Seattle Times columnist Mike Vorel joined us at 11 a.m. He made a really interesting comparison, comparing our perception and expectation when it comes to overall athleticism, comparing Julio to DK Metcalf.
I think there's a lot in the comparison between Julio and DK Metcalf in terms of the guy who just seemingly has every physical advantage in the book. And I think people become frustrated with those guys because they see what they can be. They see all of the physical tools. And when you have all this potential, and it seems like maybe to some people that you're not realizing all of it, that can become deeply frustrating.
I love this take because I think it's 1,000% true. I think that is accurate. I think people look at DK Metcalf and they see a guy where it's like, you could be Calvin Johnson. Now, in reality, and Bump, you know this, not only being a former player, but just watching a lot of film, it's a lot more complicated than just Calvin Johnson was bigger, stronger, and faster than everyone. Like, there is a real skill and a feel for the game and instinct and route running, all that stuff that you have to have. But I think that some of the frustration that came from fans when it came to DK or when it comes to Julio is looking at someone with all the tools in the world and wondering why they aren't a perennial all-pro or all-star.
Yeah, and then they've shown you that they're capable too.
Right.
I mean, DK was all-team second all-pro, I believe, 1 year.
Yeah, it's not like they came up and immediately were like, they couldn't meet expectations.
He had 1,300 yards one season, 10 touchdowns, 12 the next, and has 3 1,000-yard seasons. So with Julio, as you see him be a 30-30 guy, you saw him be a rookie of the year. You've seen him be an MVP candidate for a short amount of the season, like a couple years ago in the summer or something like that. Anyway, they've shown you enough to you're like, if you just take one more step forward, you could be something special. That's what's frustrating, and because us regular people walking around aren't like 6'2", 6'3", 200-something pounds.
I think there's like quietly a bit of like a psychological element to this that's, I don't want to say envy or jealousy, but it's almost like a, what are you doing? That makes no sense to me. If I had your weapons, I would surely have the drive and the desire to do this. Like, I do think there's a little bit of that going on in some people's minds.
And that's not reality though, man. Like, I see big guys walking around all the time and look good, work out in gyms and stuff, and then I see them run and they just can't move. Like, that's not, so just because you have that doesn't mean you have size, doesn't mean like you automatically are going to have success. There are things that make up your mental and your movements and stuff that you just can't control. But it's worse when you feel like you're being teased a bit. And I think that's what it feels like people feel with Julio, is like, you tease us a bit. Like, you had all this potential. And here's another thing too, man, is that people come in and they say, well, they shouldn't have paid Julio all that money when they did. When Julio got paid, I didn't hear none of that. Everyone's excited. You locked him down for 10 years. He's going to be good to go. He has potential to make $400 million. And I think that that was a smart thing to do. Because imagine, like, on the flip side, imagine if they waited to pay Cal. Cal will cost so much more money now than the 100-something million that
Cal's
he got.
probably wishing they waited to pay Cal.
Exactly. So it's all a gamble.
Yeah.
You have to take what they give you in that moment and hope that it continues. And it ain't over for Julio yet, though. We're talking as if there's no way Julio just has the burst of production that we've seen before, and he plays well. We also can't ignore what we've seen the past, 23 at-bats, 2 hits or something like that. Like, it ain't good.
No.
It's not good. So it's this sports stuff is this complicated.
I'm glad you mentioned his first 2 years. That's what's so frustrating about Julio, is it doesn't feel like he got hurt. It doesn't feel like he got old. It feels like he changed something. I don't know if it's mental, like an approach, if it's a tiny thing with your swing. It feels like something self-imposed that's limited so much potential. Ian, were you going to say something?
Yeah, is there anything to these guys in particular front-loading their success? Like, when Julio first came up and was just smacking it everywhere.
Like, wowed us early.
Exactly. And, like, in my head, when I think of, like, iconic DK moments, I think about that Eagles night game at the end of his rookie year where everybody was like, where did this guy kind of come from?
The Jim Schwartz game?
They just set the expectations so high that, like, it's really hard to live up to that over a long career, even when you have all of these, like, God-given tools and talents.
Yeah, maybe, Bump, to Ian's point, part of it was people going, well, what if DK does become maybe not Calvin Johnson 2.0, but what if he does become a receiver the Seahawks have never had before? And I mean no slight to Steve Largent, but I mean like that big-bodied Randy Moss, not Randy Moss, but like that big-bodied dude, right? Like they hadn't had that kind of threat that really took off. What if Julio is the second coming of Griffey? Like I think there's a lot of hope with either of those.
Yeah, people get paid off of potential, right? You've shown us enough to make us think that you can take us to a different place. And then you add it helps when you're 6'2" or something like that. And you can, especially in baseball, when you're a big body and you are producing the way you're producing in such a skilled sport, you're like, man, the power numbers can be crazy with this person. The stolen bases defensively and all that. And Julio's checked some boxes. Defensively, he's on point. Stealing bases, he's been pretty good. But it's a gamble. It's a risk. And it's rare that you get a Ken Griffey Jr. It's rare that you get a Michael Jordan. It's rare that you get the top 3% of the athletes that everyone knows and talks about. There are guys getting paid who will never reach that. Right? But they bring something to the table, and they had success early enough in their career to where the organization said, all right, let's gamble and hope that he develops.
I feel like both athletes, Julio and DK, also bring out misplaced anger and frustration. And I think part of that is from the disappointment of feeling, to your point, like someone could be great if they just, and then it'll be something in their own control. Like maybe you think it's work ethic or something that they've adjusted about their approach, whatever it is. But it feels like because they're so athletically blessed that surely it must be something they're doing to stop themselves. But it is interesting that both became so polarizing to the point where I thought some of the anger didn't make sense to me. Like, why are you mad about Julio? I'm frustrated watching his at-bats, but I don't root against him or hate him. I never got like the anger with DK or like the weird resentment that people had. It just felt misplaced.
Yeah, especially because that one person is not going to win your World Series or a Super Bowl. Like that, DK could have 1,500 yards in a season and still not win a Super Bowl. Julio could have 45 bombs in a season and you can still not win a World Series championship because it takes more than just that. But people get frustrated because you want to see at least what you thought was your centerpiece perform like it.
Yeah. Joe in Bellevue, Julio's expectations were there before he made it to the majors. A really good point, and the thing that kind of separates them is hype about players is always going to start when they're prospects, as opposed to just like when DK came out, yeah, he was great at Ole Miss, but he wasn't ranked as the #1 receiver in the nation.
No.
He just kind of like, we thought this is too good to be true. Surely he won't be, like there were knocks on his route running. You remember, like you covered that draft. Like I'm sure that there were things that like you remember people worrying, and then it was more of like oh my God, they actually did it. They actually took him, and he ended up meeting the hype and expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And baseball's funny too, man. Prospects get gassed up so much. I've never, in any other sport, baseball, we hear about 20 guys every single year. They're going to be the next this or have so much potential. And it's just so hard to have a sustained high-level amount of success, especially in baseball. It's rare that guys just kind of live up to expectations throughout their whole career. I mean, Kelenic supposed to be better than Julio. Kelenic was supposed to be the guy. And I don't know, where's he at? He's still with the Braves?
In Atlanta's AAA.
AAA.
Barely hitting 200.
I feel like sometimes we set guys up for failure. Like as an athlete, you should be able to deal with pressure. You know, like when people are like, stop talking about them. It's like, look, they are media trained. Like guys know how to, or should at this level know how to ignore the noise. But I think sometimes we do create like a mold of what they should fit into as a player. And when they don't, it's seen as underwhelming instead of us adjusting, well, what should this player be good at instead? What if Julio's never going to be a big power guy, but can make certainly more contact?
Yeah. And what if they didn't pay him $200 million?
Can we also stop talking about it like it's, not that you're doing this, but to people that do, as though it's like a salary cap where paying Julio means they can't pay someone else?
Yeah.
Okay, so you paid Julio. First of all, it's not like a top 10 contract in baseball. And secondly, there is no salary cap. It doesn't mean that you can't pay someone else because you paid Julio. Yeah. Work on fixing Julio's swing. I don't know. Someone who knows more about baseball can tell me more about that, but we're sticking